consumers should absolutely be able to feel that they're confident about the safety of products going in and why we're using them. Could have negative outcomes, not just for, the industry, but it could have negative outcomes for food security reasons. There's Keith Belk.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh.
And
Dr. Belk, if you're listening.
That was
and the title
we all
curmudgeon.
love and greatly appreciate you.
Welcome to MeatsPad. In collaboration with the American Meat Science Association, it's a platform dedicated to share breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the global meat industry. On each episode, you'll have the opportunity to listen and learn from meat specialists and professionals about the whole meat industry. This podcast is brought to you by Ultrasource, equipment and supplies for the meat and food industry.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. It's your happy, hungry host, Phil Bass, and I'm back here with another set of meat enthusiasts and brought to you in collaboration with the Women's Meat Industry Network. Sharon Beals, with an S, is joining us here with Dr. KatieRose and Dr. KatieRose McCullough. And
McCullough, you're good.
Okay, we're not going heavy into the Irish then.
No.
All right, just a little.
Welcome
bit.
to the States.
All right, welcome to the States. Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of collaborative nature. And so, I don't know, Sharon, take it away.
Well,
you
I
have
don't
some
know.
thoughts. You know KatieRose pretty darn well.
I do. And first of all, congrats on the promotion to President and Chief Scientist of the Meat Institute Foundation.
Wow.
And being appointed to the AMSA board, and she's got an Industry Achievement Award that's going to be given out on Wednesday night. So it's been a busy spring.
That's wonderful.
I obviously have the challenge of saying no. I
Yeah,
think that is very
yeah, we're still
apparent.
learning that one, right? Yeah.
I think I'm amongst friends on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was trying to think back when we first connected, if it was in an RMC or when you joined the Institute.
I was a student.
You were a student.
And it was at IFP, so the Journal of Food Protection's annual meeting. And it was with Kim Rice who introduced us. Because Kim Rice was a Zoetis at the time, and I was doing some research projects for Zoetis. And she was really mentoring me, and she explained to me how you need a personal board of directors. And she said, let me introduce you to one of mine. And I fell in love, and the rest is history.
Aww. Yeah, I can't remember what I had for dinner last night.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I when it goes, it goes.
Yeah.
So, one thing that as I look at your career, you didn't do the straight line thing as so many Ph.D. meat scientists do. You were at Tech, then you went to Oklahoma State, then you went to Colorado State. So my first question for you is, for folks tuning into this who may be thinking about that Ph.D. track, can you share your why as to the moves and help give them some insight?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with when I went in to get my bachelor's at Texas Tech, and a big person driver towards that, which I can say the story now, but was Dale Werner. And he was at...
The Dr. Dale, well, he wasn't at the time.
Yes, he was at the time.
Oh, he was?
When I was in high school, he was coaching the meats team at CSU.
Okay.
And so going up in high school and being on the team, I got to know Dale well. And so when I told him I was looking at school and I was outlining, the different ones I was looking at, and he said, go to Tech.
Oh.
Probably should not have told me that as a CSU professor, but now that he is at Texas Tech, it's safe to say. So I was insistent. I did not want a PhD. It did not something I was not going to do. And probably my greatest childhood and early career mentor made me promise him to get a master's, and that was the late Paul Clayton.
Sure.
And so Paul made me promise to at least get a master's. I said, fine, but I'm not doing the PhD. Yeah. And so I went to Tech. I had a fantastic experience, was on the judging team there, loved every minute of it. But I was really, really passionate of wanting to have a very broad network. And I said, if I stay at the same place the entire time, my network potentially would be very small.
Sure.
And so Oklahoma State offered a great opportunity. I looked at Oklahoma State and Colorado State, chose Oklahoma State. At the time, got to coach a couple meat judging teams there, which was great. And I was like, I really want to do this research thing. And I said, I want to go do nothing but research. I'm tired of teaching after teaching so many. OSHA is an outstandingly large undergraduate program, and so I had to teach a lot then. And I said, I need to go work for the most curmudgeon-y old scientist that all he does is research. So Keith Belk.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh.
And
Dr. Belk, if you're listening.
That was
and the title
We all
curmudgeon.
love and greatly appreciate you.
And that was completely endorsed by everybody at the table. And I absolutely adored it. Working with Dr. Belk was one of the best decisions I ever made, and I learned so much. And towards the end of that, I had got really tired of people villainizing the meat industry and saying, oh, meat's going to give you cancer. It's all these awful things. And so near the end of my Ph.D., I started also working on my master's in public health at the CU Denver's Colorado School of Public Health. And so Dr. Belk was a huge supporter of that. And that's kind of how I ended up, is I just wanted a huge, broad network and different reasons kind of.
Well, and that's interesting because the position that you hold right now within the Meat Institute and the Meat Institute in general, it's kind of like this ideal situation, right? You're well trained to go out and speak on behalf of the meat industry. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about what the Meat Institute is? Because I would imagine, especially on our processor side, maybe they don't know what you do and how impactful truly the Meat Institute is.
Oh, thank you. Great question. I have to say, I love working for the Meat Institute. Meat Institute, we're a fantastic organization. I like to think of us as AMSA's probably older sister organization. We've been around a little bit longer. And what AMSA does for meat scientists, in a way, the Meat Institute does that for industry. So we are the oldest and largest trade association that represents packers and processors. Okay. So we represent a lot of their policy needs, their public affairs needs, their international affairs needs, and all of that should be underpinned in science. And that's what my role is to make sure all the things that we're doing there can be firmly anchored in foundation. So I love being able to keep a close relationship with AMSA to make sure the Institute is doing what they need to be doing. And the Institute is super broad. So 95% of the beef, pork, and further processed meat products out there are members of the Meat Institute. So you walk into any grocery store, 95% of those are going to be members of our organization, about 50% of poultry, and I think 40% of turkey, and almost all lamb, and almost all veal. So tremendous, tremendous amount of product in that portfolio, and our board of directors make up the CEO of those largest and the smallest companies. So biggest of the big and the smallest of the small are members of our organization. So we have a lot of small family businesses that we get to work with, as well as, the giants, and it's a lot of fun.
Going back to your Masters of Public Health, because, early days of COVID, so forever grateful to yourself and the Meat Institute for keeping us informed, as things were changing, and Lord knows they were changing every day, every minute by minute. You did such an awesome job, and I still remember you telling me, I never thought I'd use my Master's of Public Health as much as I did my Ph.D. But, looking back, what were some of those aha moments for you during those first couple of years or first, early months?
Yeah, great question. I think what a big aha moment for me is we always say, especially in the food safety space, know what you're going to test for. Understand what you're sampling and understand what you're going to do with the results. Well, we saw this enormous influx of everybody wanting to test all of their employees. Well, what about accuracy of the test? What are you going to do with the results? What happens, the length of time it takes from when you take the sample to the result? We'd have plants that would say, okay, we're going to sample everybody. Well, it's like, well, are you going to have that make everybody stay home then until you get the clean bill of health? Well, no, they're still working. Okay, well, what happens when you find out for 5 days you've had employees working next to each other that one was carrying asymptomatic COVID and not? And so I think that really drove home what it really means when you say know what you're testing for, what you're going to do with the results, and those consequences. And it doesn't mean don't test. That is not the answer, right? And I think that's where then people swung to the other end of the pendulum. We're just never going to test. No, it's a fantastic tool, but we learned, I think, very rapidly, and I think it was, especially in those early on days, those people who would do across the company testing, and I'd get phone calls in with them of, what do we do with it? They'd find that most of their positives were asymptomatic and had no idea they were positives. And it was very scary of how do we keep food on America's plate, on the global plate, it's not just America, but the world's plate, but not put our employees at risk. And so it was very scary in the beginning.
You know, and that rule carries over to everything. My rule is like, if you're not prepared to deal with the answer you didn't want, make sure you are prepared before you do that test. Applies to micro, applies to a lot of things.
With an extensive range of equipment, parts, and industrial supplies, Ultrasource has been providing solutions to companies worldwide since 1883. Whether you're looking for kill floor equipment, vacuum packaging, or high-speed labeling, Ultrasource can custom tailor a solution to meet your specific goals and brand image. Choose Ultrasource for all your food packaging and processing needs.
Yeah, well, so, and that having the two of you here is actually a really great situation, because you've spent a career, Sharon, in food safety. You're kind of newer to the career in the food safety, but everything else, of course, yeah. Let's just call it that.
I always do this when someone talks about my age, because that's where I put my eye cream on, my wrinkle cream. So thank you.
Well, what are some of the food safety research priorities that we need to be thinking about out there, or at least the greater topics for the industry that we need to be focusing on?
Excellent question, Phil, because we're living in an extremely dynamic political environment, which heavily influences, fortunately, unfortunately, our food safety priorities in a way.
It's all part of fun.
Exactly. You just buckle up and enjoy the ride on that roller coaster. And one of those is we're really getting to a place where consumers are asking a lot of questions, and policymakers are asking a lot of questions about ingredients in their processed meat products, which isn't a bad thing. Consumers should absolutely be able to feel that they're confident about the safety of products going in and why we're using them. Well, in the meat industry, we know that is a heavily studied, very precise science that we do when we're formulating products. But we've really gotten to this place where policymakers don't get it. And if they can't pronounce it, they think it shouldn't have to be in there. And there's going to be a lot of serious food safety consequences if we're not able to really articulate that. And I think some of that science, science done back in the 70s isn't bad science, but sometimes policymakers need to see more up-to-date science. And sometimes science does need updating after 70 years. And it may not change the outcome, but we have to make sure things are still the same. So I think a lot of this MAHA-focused ingredients is going to drive a lot of that. I worry about the Listeria and Clostridium perfringens challenges that we could potentially see in our further processed products, as well as we know there's going to be Salmonella policy coming. And I feel like I'm getting so tired of talking about Salmonella, but it's so complex. We're nowhere near being able to solve the problem.
It's very complicated. Yeah, I mean, well, especially it's a whole species that we're not just trying to go to a single address. We're looking at the entirety of that volume of critter that's out there. But can you elaborate a little bit more on the ingredient side? Because I didn't think you were going to go there. Which is awesome, and I'm so grateful. Yeah, high fives are okay. It's okay. Don't pound on the table, but high fives are okay. So yeah, expand on the ingredient side of things. Like that's intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. So right now, going on in policy is we're overhauling the GRAS process, are generally recognized as safe. Not a bad idea. There's been self-affirmed GRAS, there's been things that were grandfathered in prior to certain policies coming in. And so there's a lot of people asking questions going, wait, are we sure this is okay in our products? Are we sure, I think where some of the larger conversations going, is it not just, is it okay in this one product, but what is the overall dietary exposure to someone of that item in multiple products that they may eat throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year? And none of those are bad questions to have. We're a little different on the meat side, right? It goes through an FDA review that they determine if that is safe for humans, if that exposure from a dietary perspective, is it safe to be put into food? And then FSIS looks at it and does a very similar process to say, can it be incorporated? So sometimes it's good to have belts and suspenders, right? To make sure we are
Staples and tape. Your pants are never coming down.
right. I am not a bad thing, and that's why I tell everybody this is not a bad thing. I love the idea to be able to prove to people what we are putting in these meat products are safe. But again, when right now policy is moving very, very fast, there's not this sort of we want to wait. And with the new dietary guidelines, emphasis on real food, where meat was really celebrated, which I think is fantastic. It's something that we know is great for consumers. It's great for overall health. There could, unfortunately, if we're not being careful, this perception that only single ingredient meat products are good for you. Sure. Could have negative outcomes, not just for, the industry, but it could have negative outcomes for food security reasons. There's a lot of people who, they need those convenience items. It's okay to take a, lightly breaded chicken nugget and throw it in the air fryer, and that's what you're feeding your kids, right? That might be the only thing your 2-year-old is going to eat, right?
Yes.
When the last round of dietary guidelines really wanted to emphasize lentils, I was like, have you ever fed a toddler? I mean, one week the only thing they'll eat is macaroni and cheese, and the next time they'll only eat peanut butter and jelly, and they hate macaroni and cheese. We're just thankful if they eat. Good luck feeding them lentils.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that, and I'm glad that we're looking at that, honestly, because what research, and I'm using air quotes for those who can't see right now, but research in the past has demonstrated one thing: red meat causing heart disease. Or the doctors who used to recommend certain cigarettes for pregnant women. We don't do that anymore. Right. And it turns out red meat's actually really good for you. So it's good to go back and reinvestigate some of that stuff. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, I again, the Institute has just been, it's so wonderful what the work that's done, because it's shared. It was the Institute that 20 plus years ago declared food safety to be non-competitive. Yeah. And the fact that we share, and because the tide rises all boats. Maybe expand on that first, maybe for some of our younger listeners out there. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's an extremely important point. Yeah, it, I believe, came about from the Bill Maher recall from 1998, 1999, where a lot of the early work that was done on inhibitors, done by Oscar Mayer, who then gave it all away, kind of like, who developed the seatbelt? Was it Saab or Volvo? And then gave it away. Saab, I think. Right? It was. Yeah. Food safety is not competitive, because if one of us gets hurt, we're all getting it, or hurts somebody, it hurts the entire industry. And it's not contained to single species either. That's exactly right. I mean, as I tell people when I'm doing Listeria training, no one's cornered the market, and no food matrix has cornered the market on pathogens. It impacts all of us, and we should learn from other industries. I look at what Empirical did from, taking that dairy approach to sanitation, and as they've built their plants. But it's not competitive. We do share. Sometimes you just got to know to ask. And I think that was your point about, there might be some younger listeners going, you mean I could just pick up the phone and call KatieRose or call Sharon or call Phil, and if I've got a question and it's a food safety one, you'll answer me? Of course we will. Yeah. We're here to help. We're not going to share our formulations maybe with you, but if there's a better way to keep salmonella out of the plant, by gosh, we're going to do that. 100%. 100%. I'm sorry to interrupt you, so thank you for mentioning that, and continue, please. Yeah, well, as I think about, okay, so clearly, KatieRose, I've known you a lot longer than I thought I did, but as you, but still very early career. Very early career. Very, very, very.
You saved it. You saved that there.
So, what are some of the things you've learned along the way? I mean, you are our treasurer. You sit on the women's executive committee. She's been our treasurer, and but share with our purpose and our mission is to help women in the industry, stay in the industry, because we see a lot of them come in, but where are they in 5 years? So tell us some of the things you've learned along the way, because I'm, for one, very glad you're still here, and I've managed to survive since 1980. So
We exist.
We exist.
And, I think it's such a great topic because I love it because I get to talk to professors like you, Phil, who say, over half my class are women. What do you mean? There's a problem with women in the meat industry. But I can look at, the Meat Institute's board of directors, who are all absolutely fantastic, and almost all of them are men still.
Sure.
So they're not, we're still working on, retaining those women. We can get them started off, and you guys do a fantastic job of that in academia, mentoring and getting these young women excited about the industry. And we've got to make sure we can keep them. And I think where I've learned stuff is don't expect your career to always be linear as far as always going up, right? It's always going to be only good times. It's just going to get better, and better. That's not how this works. That's not how any of
That's
this
not how
works.
life works.
No, it is not. And so a little bit of adversity expected, and that it's gonna be okay. Yeah. You're gonna fall. You're gonna mess up. And you're not gonna run into people that always are gonna want to be your fan and your biggest cheerleaders. And frankly, most of the time it says a lot more about them than you. It's not about you. So if it was a young female that says, I'm running into this issue where maybe it's more of a hostile environment or not a very friendly environment, for every single one of those, you're going to have 2 or 3 people that would be fantastic to work with. So stay the course and don't be afraid to ask for a mentor. Don't be afraid to ask other people. We talked about that in food safety, but it still rings true here. And I think that's where, again, it's fantastic to participate in organizations like Women, like AMSA, who their goal is to want to keep you connected to a support system. We were all at the board meeting yesterday with AMSA, and how important did we talk about that mentoring of young professionals? Yes. And so knowing that while you're not a student anymore, there's still that community there. And sometimes, you need to stay the course. And one thing I tell myself, believe it or not, I've met some people in this world that don't just adore me.
No.
What?
What's wrong with it?
Who?
Give me your name. And so I always tell people, I said, you can be the ripest, juiciest peach in this world, but there's just going to be somebody out there that just don't like peaches. Yep. Yep. And that's okay.
Their problem, not yours.
That's right.
So how, again, you talked about this Master's of Public Health, which you came in extremely handy, thinking about continuing education, what would you say to somebody who, as we've got career fair going on today at AMSA, and I don't know when this is going to air, so this could be, in October, but yes. As I talk to students, what's next? Well, maybe I'm going to go to graduate school, maybe I'm going to go to industry, or maybe I'm going to go get that Ph.D., or maybe I'm going to stick with the master's. So, what would be your advice? Like if somebody's really they're undecided, what would be your advice?
Probably not the advice of where some other people would be. So buckle up here, and maybe not advice where a lot of
strap in, Phil.
Thank you, Sob. Maybe not where some professors would like me to be. But if you're not sure, I don't think the answer is more college.
I would second that.
I think
and that's my day job.
Yeah.
But I would second that.
I think we encourage too many students that's not the right fit for really where they want to be to stay in college too long, because we need help in academia to get research projects done or get other things done, but that may not be for that individual student where they need to be. I would encourage more internships. Yep. For testing out where do you want to be. But if you're undecided, my advice would be go get a job. You can always come back. I've met some of the most brilliant scientists I know have been people who went to work and then came back and decided to get a PhD because they after working they said, no, I now know and I want it. So I definitely don't think it's go get more education. And obviously as someone who stayed in college for an eternity, it is the right fit. It just seemed that way. I know, it felt that way. My student loans tell me I did. But, for some people, that is absolutely right. But that is not right for everybody. I know people who, frankly, make way more money than me at my age, or wildly successful, that went to college less than half the time I did. So that is no bearing on what your long-term success is going to be. And no, at that age and at that time, that's what it can feel like, but it's not.
Hey, meat folks, it's your happy, hungry host, Phil Bass, and we're proud to be here at the 2026 American Meat Science Association Reciprocal Meat Conference in Amarillo, Texas this year, where students, scientists, and industry leaders all come together to connect, learn, and shape the future of meat science. Thank you so much to the American Meat Science Association for supporting these conversations and for your support to MeatsPad. Dr. Belk was actually the one, because he was my major professor as well for my Ph.D., and he was actually the one that started a philosophy of mine that I maintain now, but was very clear that you don't get a Ph.D. for the money. You have a goal in mind, because if you're going to get an advanced degree for the money, you get an MBA, and then you stop there, and then you go and do business stuff. You need to have that goal in mind. I regularly, anytime I'm interviewing somebody for a PhD position, that day I start the day out with saying, my job right now is to try to convince you not to do this because you need to want it that bad. Master's degree, not so much. Sometimes we just need the extra hands. PhD, don't do this unless you have a goal in mind, and you need to convince me that this is the right step for you. But I also need to make, you need to make that commitment, and that you have to have that intentionality. And then going back to just the points that you were making, is that staying in school longer, going and spending more money on a formal education, maybe that's not the right path for everybody, but you learn a lot as a professional. It's not that you're not getting an education. It's just not that sit-down formal education. You get out and the bachelor's is a great stepping stone, and starts people out. If that's not for everybody, that's fine too. But don't stop learning. Just be willing to learn in whatever that job is that you're going to next. And if that's not the right path, you'll know, and we'll find
4
another
years,
direction.
I was ready to be out, ready to be done. Said I'd go back later, and I tried, and then I changed jobs, and things went, life happened. Yeah. And you know what?
Look how great. You have a very successful career that I know you feel you have worked, I think, everywhere on the planet.
Can't hold a job.
And no, you have been in so demand. You've been everywhere, and it's not a measure of long-term success. It's that grit in a student that I think matters more in what you want to do, and you just need to find the right place for you that's going to take, as someone who now manages people, and I work a lot with our senior leadership at the Institute, which we're very thankful for, to have some absolutely phenomenal C-suite leaders, and getting mentorship from them is, we spend a lot of focus on trying to identify what is this person good at, and how do we leverage and use that? And that's what you want to find. What place can you get to in this industry that's going to see what you are good at and say, let's work with that and make that better? And that's not, if it's not the right fit for you, that's not going to get a PhD.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's the right seat on the bus is what it is.
Right.
And getting on the right bus to start
and
with.
then you got to get on the right bus.
But it's also okay if you need to change buses.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with that.
That option is still out there.
You get your little exchange ticket from the driver, and you go get on the next one.
The next one.
Excuse me, I did not mean to be heading south. Let's go. I don't need to go back north.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Since this is your first time being on MeatsPad,
Yes, I think so.
just to be sure.
I'm not going to do a drum roll because we were told
no,
not to
that's
bang on the
okay. No
table.
drum roll. Or at least the first time I've interviewed you on MeatsPad, I like to ask the question, how did you get into the meats world? And you've sort of alluded to it, but what drew you to that judging team?
Yeah, no, great question. I raised livestock in 4-H. My dad grew up on a farm, and so we were exposed to agriculture at a very, very young age. And so I grew up raising livestock and whatnot, and I really wanted to join the livestock judging team. And I eventually did, but it was a little delayed because it met at the same time that I had like my church youth group, which that needed to be priority at that stage in my life, so I couldn't do it. And so my 4-H sheep leader was Paul Clayton. And he was like, well, come join the meats team. And like I said, the rest was history. And he was a phenomenal mentor. I absolutely fell in love with it, which carried me to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I would still be calling him, as a young professional at the Institute, I'd be calling him for advice. And so.
What was your dissertation?
My dissertation.
If you can recall, if you haven't blacked that out yet, so.
There's a lot of things I block out about working for Dr. Belk, as I know you do. Our support
And
group is
Dr.
meeting
Belk,
later
we
today.
all love you. Don't just.
Just reiterating that again, just in case.
Our support group meets later. My PhD project looked at populations of Salmonella and Campylobacter on pork products and different interventions that we can use to reduce those populations, as well as I did a lot of work on the molecular testing of Salmonella to really classify the different types of Salmonella by extracting their surface and ribosomal proteins and using mass spec to try to segregate which ones quickly.
That's a clear demonstration, and now I'm going to brag on Dr. Belk, a clear demonstration of the depth and breadth of his knowledge and expertise, because my research, of course, I did, as I just mentioned, he was my major professor for my PhD, was extremely different than that. So, it was heavyweight carcasses and dark cutting beef. And but an amazing program nonetheless. And
Absolutely.
So,
I did.
And it suits you well because the research priorities you just outlined are indeed what you have background in, which is really cool.
And that's to, again, brag, plug your ears, because I would never want Dr. Belk to think I said good things about him. But I got to also do really large yield tests on carcasses.
Yes.
So that type of breadth of different things, again, puts out such strong students from that program, but has, to your point, set me up very much so for success.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I really thank you for joining us. And Sharon, thanks for being here again.
We appreciate the partnership with the Women's Meat Industry Network. And if you want to join us, WMIN.org. Happy to have you.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At MeatsPad, we're proud to collaborate with the American Meat Science Association to help share the conversations shaping the future of meat science. The association brings together students, researchers, educators, and industry professionals to exchange knowledge, support innovation, and strengthen the next generation of leaders. Through this podcast, we help extend that mission by bringing those stories and insights directly to our audience. Learn more at meatscience.org.